I want you to start by imagining a scene that, well, it might feel a little too familiar to some of us. Picture a high school kid standing in this crowded hallway, nervously scanning a piece of paper taped to the gymnasium door. He's desperately looking for his name on the varsity basketball team roster. He scans from top to bottom, once, twice, but his name just isn't there. He's just been told in no uncertain terms that he simply isn't good enough. The rejection is absolute. In this explainer, we're looking at the profound impact of failure and how the way we respond to that exact moment of rejection literally dictates the trajectory of our entire lives.
Because here is the absolutely wild reality about that kid staring at the gym door. That rejected high schooler, it was Michael Jordan. No way, right? Imagine that. The man that almost the entire world recognizes as the greatest basketball player to ever step onto a court was once a teenager who couldn't even make his high school varsity team on the first try. It completely shatters that illusion we have about success, doesn't it? It really forces us to ask a profound question. What if the greatest wasn't even good enough at the start?
Section 1. The myth of instant greatness.
Okay, let's dive into this pervasive cultural myth. We look at champions and we just assume they were born that way, you know? Fully formed and totally invincible. When faced with that crushing high school rejection, most people would have quit right there. Honestly, most people would have packed up their shoes and walked away, convinced the so-called experts had spoken. But not Jordan. Take a second and really let those 3 words sink in. He made a completely different choice. He didn't shrink from the pain of that failure. He consumed it. He used that monumental, heartbreaking moment of rejection as his ultimate fuel. Every time he stepped onto a court, every single time he practiced until his hands practically bled, he was proving that piece of paper on the gym door wrong. He chose to let failure catalyze him, not crush him.
Section 2. The Kobe Bryant Formula. That fierce response to failure didn't just forge Jordan's legacy. It laid the exact blueprint for the next generation. Years later, a young player named Kobe Bryant enters the league and builds his entire mentality by relentlessly studying Jordan. But there was a catch. Kobe wasn't born with the exact same physical gifts. He didn't naturally possess Jordan's freakish athleticism or his explosive power. On paper, matching Jordan's greatness should have been mathematically impossible. And this brilliantly illustrates a key point. Kobe substituted those physical gaps with a relentless mentality and obsessive studying. Despite lacking those natural advantages, he became one of the greatest players in history, right alongside his hero.
So, why is that? How does that actually work? Well, it all comes down to the core thesis of our explainer today. Talent matters, but mindset decides how far you go. I want to pause here for a second because this is just incredibly vital. Talent is just the starting line. It's a factor, sure, but it is your mindset, your pure resilience in the face of failure, that acts as the ultimate deciding factor in the marathon of your life.
Section 3. Trusting the growth process.
Now, adopting this champion's mindset isn't some overnight magical fix. Kobe had to really trust the process through some severe trials. Even as a highly touted rookie, he barely got playing time. He just sat on the bench. He faced humiliating failures on the biggest, brightest stages in the world, literally shooting air balls in critical playoff games, while doubters laughed and said he was just a kid in way over his head. But how did he respond to all that noise? The formula is remarkably, almost frustratingly simple. Step 1, show up. Step 2, show up again. Step 3, show up again. This is the grueling, totally unglamorous nature of consistency. When the crowd boos, you show up. When your shots miss, you show up. He simply kept showing up, again and again and again, long after the cameras were packed up and gone.
What this reveals are the actual practical mechanics of human growth. Over time, strictly because of that relentless repetition, his skills eventually caught up with his belief. And honestly, this is such a liberating concept. You do not need to have everything perfectly figured out on day 1. You don't need to possess flawless skills before you begin your journey. You just need the profound courage to continue. You need the belief first. The skills, they'll follow the reps.
And hey, this isn't just about basketball. This is a universal truth that applies to whatever field you are in right now. Every single expert you admire once looked hopelessly inexperienced. Every wildly successful entrepreneur you read about once felt paralyzed by uncertainty. Every champion holding a trophy once struggled bitterly behind the scenes where absolutely nobody was clapping for them. The only difference between them and the people who faded away, they didn't stop.
Section 4. Refusing to quit.
So the crucial point is this: you have to fundamentally change where you are looking. If you're constantly staring at your current failures, you're going to be paralyzed. I want to aggressively challenge you today to stop focusing on where you are right now. Your current location is just a snapshot, okay? It is not your final destination. Instead, focus entirely on who you are becoming. You've got to let go of your old limitations. The story of Michael Jordan's high school rejection, the story of Kobe Bryant's early struggles, they prove, without a doubt, that the people who ultimately win in life are not always the ones who were deemed the most talented at the starting line.
The real winners are the ones who deliberately reprogram their minds. Think of it like updating your mental hard drive. You need to write these 3 traits into your code. Consistency, which is the willingness to show up even when it's incredibly boring. Resilience, the ability to use failure and rejection as your fuel, just like a young Jordan did. And growth, trusting the long process until your skills finally catch up with your belief. This right here is the exact blueprint of a champion.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway, and really, the question you have to answer for yourself today. The people who win are simply the ones who refuse to quit. So when you face your own locked gym door, when your name isn't on the list, when the failure is stinging and super public, what are you going to do? Will you let it define you, or will you refuse to quit? Take that champion's mindset, use the rejection as fuel, and go get to work.